Hi Lucy, hi Anthony, thanks for being with us today.
Hi.
So the first question as always, what's your background and what did you guys do before starting your company?
Okay, so basically I've worked for a few startups. I worked for a startup called Cedars, and then after I did an internship at VC firm DFJ Spree. But it was while working as an IT support analyst that I basically came up with the idea of Swogo, where I would have my colleagues come over to me and ask me, which laptop should I buy, which mobile, etc. I'd spend a lot of time sort of researching for them, and I knew what I was looking for, and they didn't understand these sort of technical specifications, and it took me so long, so I wanted to solve that problem.
And I initially joined Swogo in a kind of content context for it because I do things like write the content on the site and the blog. So most of my background is related to that. I just graduated from Warwick doing English and creative writing, and I've had a lot of online and offline content roles. Most recently was at the travel startup Wayne, where I am now.
Right, so you guys combine different backgrounds.
Yeah.
So who else is in your team?
So basically we have our CTO, Dimitar Kazakov. He came from doing 2 master's degrees. I met him by basically contracting him. We have Ivor Stankov, who does our marketing, and we have Andre, who does our business development.
Awesome. So what's your sort of role, the main role of you guys in the project?
Well, basically, I mean, I'm just pretty much leading the vision and making sure that each little sections are going properly.
I'm running content and PR, but the thing with a startup is because it's quite flexible and there's so many different things to do, we kind of change what we're doing on a day-to-day basis.
Exactly. It's a bit like an orchestra, right?
Yeah.
Great. So let's speak about Swogo. What's the main mission of Swogo and how does the service work?
Well, in short, Swogo is hoping to offer the simplest way to find the best product for you. So more people are shopping online than ever, but choosing the right product still isn't easy. Search engines will turn you to information instead of answers, and we found that online reviews are contradictory and they're boring, and they just take a lot of time to get through. We found that the average person spends 3 weeks looking for a laptop, and we just wanted there to be an easier way. So on Swogo, all you have to do is answer a short series of simple questions about what you're looking for, from which we can recommend the best product for you, and give you a tailored explanation as to exactly why it meets your needs. So we're trying to be the experts, finding a product in just 60 seconds.
I mean, our whole vision basically is to help anyone make a purchase decision like an expert, like on the web or on the go in just 60 seconds. So we started out trying to do that just for laptops. Then we plan on branching out into the other consumer electronics, so tablets, mobile phones, TVs, etc., before going out into other product markets.
Right. So I saw the agenda that you have on your website. So far you guys have a laptop, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And then next year there are a bunch of other products coming.
Yeah.
Right. So can you tell a bit more on that? I mean, so you started from laptops, then next is tablets.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, basically, yeah, we're probably going to go into tablets next. We hope to cover everything by around July of next year, so covering all the ones that are listed on the site.
But the main thing we found is that it's not just electronics that are difficult to decide upon, like cars are difficult and holidays, and so once we've sort of maxed ourselves out in consumer electronics as it is, we want to try and look into other areas where we can make the process just a lot simpler for everyone.
And we're also going to be launching in the US for laptops as well in January. So basically we'll be going along as what we do for the UK, we'll be doing exactly the same thing for the US, all the way across the consumer electronics before going into the other product markets.
Wow, that's cool, that's awesome. So you guys just opened, I mean there was a launch on 10th of December this year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, how long did it take from the inception of idea, you know, till this time we're talking right now?
Okay, I mean, well, I had a sort of idea when I worked in IT support. I think I was about 17, 18 years old, so it was a few years ago. But basically the idea has pivoted a lot since then, and now basically we want to be a service that recommends absolutely everything to everyone.
We've kind of had the main progress be made as such since we secured funding in August on Cedars, the crowdfunding platform. So since then we've been able to get a small technical team together and develop the product that we now have.
Right. So since you mentioned Seeders as a crowdfunding platform, how
Sure.
did it work in your case? I mean, I guess it's something like Kickstarter or some other platform, right?
I mean, you could look at it as sort of Kickstarter, but for equity. So you put your business online, and then the crowd basically decide whether or not to invest into you, and in return they receive equity.
So from your perspective, I mean, what's the advice you can give for those guys who want to put their own project online and get funded? How you should sort of pitch the audience?
Okay, well, I think what a lot of people forget is that you need to have sort of offline interaction as well. So we did speak to some angel investors offline, and then basically if you can fill up the initial sort of funding, so getting it to say 30% with offline networking, it will appear to other people that you're already starting to fill your round. So then the crowd will start to follow in, whereas people tend to be quite reluctant to be the first ones to start putting their money down.
All right.
Yeah, and we would definitely say that one thing that we've also learned in terms of pitching is just to be very clear and concise about your idea. If you can't summarise your idea in a way that everyone understands in a sentence, then it's too complicated. And also, we found that the team is extremely important. Like, this is one thing, when we were in the NatQ varsity pitch competition, and the judges said to us that the team was extremely important. It was one of the reasons why we got through as we did. Just because, although obviously you need a good idea to succeed, you also need a dedicated and skilled team behind it in order to bring it to the right stage.
So would you rather agree or disagree with those who say, you know, it's more about the team than the idea? They can say that you can have, for instance, a sort of A-level idea and B-level team and fail, and preferably it's good to have, you know, A-level team and B-level idea. Would you rather agree
Well, I
with
would say it's good to have both.
All right.
But definitely having a terrible team behind a really good idea, it just means they won't even be able to execute it on it anyway. So I would say having a better team is more important.
Right. So what's the main challenge of running your company?
Well, basically, we've kind of found that like it's really hectic. Every day we're doing different things, and we run into so many different challenges all the time. So at first we had some sort of technical issues. We've resolved those, but also because we're like a small company, basically we have to face all these issues. And at the moment we're focusing on improving our user experience. So people seem to be getting stuck using our pricing slider, which is actually our first question. So we're working out ways to improve that, and we're going to be trying to resolve this over the weekend and the upcoming week.
Right. Anything else? Maybe, you know, how many people right now in your team?
We have 5 founders and another developer.
Right, because I presume that there are some other companies that might be not exactly in your industry, but doing something similar, or you're the first one.
Well, we've got a few competitors. In the UK, the main indirect competitor would be Which, who kind of are more aimed at, for one, an older generation than ours. They're more aimed at sort of older consumers, but also they offer buying guides. So they'll explain, this is what a computer does, this is what this means for a laptop, this is what RAM means. But then the user still has to read the content, they still have to understand the content, and they still have to apply it. Whereas the point of Swogo is that we do all that for them. Then our 2 main other competitors would be Sortable and Find the Best. For a start, neither of them have a UK service. So we're one of the first UK services, and we also want to have a mobile experience, which to the best of our knowledge, they also don't have. But equally, both of them allow you to apply technical filters. So you can say, oh, I want a quad-core processor, for instance. But that means that you have to understand what those technical filters mean. And so it's very useful if, for instance, you've done your research, you have 2 products you're deciding between, and you just don't know which one to go for. Then for that, we'd say Sortable is a brilliant site. But for someone who just wants to find a laptop that, say, I just want to surf the web, I want to use it on the move, I want to take it to business meetings with me, then we'd say we offer the simplest and easiest way to find the laptop for you.
All right, so from user's perspective, for instance, myself, I want to buy a laptop, and starting from £320, right? So
Yeah.
I go here, and then what happens next?
Okay, so basically what happens is we'll introduce you to a set of questions, starting with your budget. You can slide the slider along, saying, for example, I have £800 to spend, and then progress on to the next question. As you get your way to the end, what happens is you'll be recommended the best product, and there's also another 5 recommendations at the bottom. We offer a tailored explanation as to why this laptop is the right one for you. And we also translate, for example, specifications into, say, speed out of 10. So it's a lot easier for people to understand. And then we offer them the opportunity to go and buy this on Amazon. Really early into the new year, we plan on adding a lot of other retailers. And also we'll be fixing up the price slider especially.
Right. Just, I mean, to show what you just explained, this works this way, right? About
Yes.
the specification. So there are sort of criteria that you use. Do you update your database every day, or how does it work?
Every single day our database is updated with the latest laptops.
Right. That's pretty awesome. Who designed your website?
Well, sorry.
We got Danny Keane to do the design. I mean, this is one thing we've gotten a lot of compliments on. It's something we're extremely proud of, is that the site looks really pretty. So we definitely recommend Danny Keane to anyone else.
Right. You guys, I mean, some people know that you've been leading a startup diary on our website, which is called Startup Diary Swogo. And I remember one of the first entries when you were sort of sharing your experience about, looking for an office to let, or
Yes.
you settled in some of the office co-working space, right? You still there, or did you change your place?
We've basically changed. Initially, we had our developers in the UK, well, in London with us, in the co-working space. So that's pretty much why we had the office. But now it's mainly the founders that work from the UK anyway. So we're actually working from my house at the moment. This is my house.
Right. Comfy, looks great. So what is your working day like? I mean, what's your daily routine? It should be kind of the same for both of you, right?
Well, I mean, there's some things that we work all together and we brainstorm ideas together, but then there's things that that we just deal with ourselves. Like generally, the content, Lucy will just take care of it herself, and it's better that I don't get involved in that. So.
But yeah, it changes day to day. We kind of tend to start out at the start of the day, sort of setting out what do we need to do, what needs to get done most urgently, and we just work through it at the end of the day, see what's left, see what we can do tomorrow.
Right. Do you work every day except weekends, or within weekends too?
We definitely work 5 days a week. I mean, we can often be found working really late until 3 o'clock in the morning. But we do work weekends as well sometimes when we need to.
Right. So what's the next step for Swogo now?
Well, as soon as we resolve our user experience issues, which I hope we will be able to do by the end of next week, what we plan on doing is starting to produce the US. So start all the programming on that, and then launching that early in January.
All right. That's cool. Good luck with this.
Thank you.
The question I always ask to everybody: what's the role of academic education for the entrepreneur, for the career of entrepreneur? And I guess since you guys both educated, you could probably explain that.
Yeah. Well, we both actually have differing opinions on it.
All right.
I actually believe that you don't need it. I studied business economics, and to be honest, I don't really see how that helped me. I mean, a lot of the actual economic-related things that I need, I've learnt from working in venture capital, so I don't believe that actually helped me much. And I mean, there's also loads of successful people, for example, that have dropped out without any sort of academic qualifications. So you could have James Caan from Dragon's Den, Richard Branson, Kevin Rose, etc. So.
I agree that I don't think you need formal education in order to do well. I think a lot of the things that I've learned in terms of improving Swogo have just been working on Swogo and meeting other entrepreneurs and actually getting sort of stuck into it. But equally, I think particularly in my content role, I did a degree in creative writing, and I feel that was extremely useful in honing that part of what I do. And also in terms of the university experience, I took on a lot of formal roles in kind of societies, in sort of secretarial things. And I think those kind of roles are really useful for preparing you to lead teams, but in a kind of safer environment, as it were. In the same way that in school you can like run the school prom or whatever, end of year ball, and it's kind of, it teaches you about event management, but without the fear of having to actually go and run an event.
Right. Well, speaking about the theory, you know, and the practice in universities, because myself, I managed to study in American university and in British university, and what really strikes me here is that the balance between theory and practice. When there's an American university, they tend to push you out of the university and try to do some stuff, while when you studied in British university, you focus around the theory more. It revolves around, you know, reading books and writing essays. Would you agree that it will change the system within the next 5 to 10 years, you know, or it's gonna stay the same?
I think it's definitely going to change. I think, because I mean, you can see it changing in schools as it is. I think for years, there was this massive push just to get people to do well at GCSE, then A-level, and then get to a university. Whereas now people are realising, actually, degrees are becoming devalued. There are numerous really useful, relevant careers that people should be entering that you don't need a degree for. Like, for instance, carpentry, and it's much more useful to have things like apprenticeships. And I think there is definitely, if it doesn't happen, it needs to happen in order to get people having more relevant skills just for the workplace.
I mean, I think we've noticed here that the tuition fees have risen. So now people are paying, say, £9,000, so it's kind of making it a little less affordable for people. So I actually think that people are going to try and open up education online. I mean, when we were at the Dublin Web Summit, we saw Coursera,
yeah.
And that was like phenomenal. And we saw Code Academy, for example, who basically teach you how to like code online. So, I mean, you can really start like learning things online, and hopefully these become sort of accredited and respected by companies. And I think if that does happen, then it will definitely change education.
Speaking about Coursera, I just did one course there in, they call it scientific writing.
Oh,
I
really?
got my diploma, my certificate recently, and then they write there, they have an asterisk there, and they write on the bottom there that it cannot replace the proper university course. Even though it can help, it doesn't replace. So would you agree that one day it might even replace, you know, the orthodox buildings?
I think the thing with particularly Coursera is that they're very short courses. So you can't say doing a 4-week course is going to replace doing a 3-year course, I think is the issue. And then if you're saying, oh, well, we'll turn it into the equivalent of a 3-year course, you're essentially doing what the Open University already do. I think for specific skill sets, it should be recognised as this may be more relevant. It may be more relevant to do a 6-week course in coding if you want to be a developer than to have spent 3 years doing business at a university. I think it's more about recognising them as two different ways to learn and two different routes to different means.
Right, that makes sense. So since we touch the future right now, what do you think? Because I just was thinking that Swogo in a way is trendsetter, right? Because you guys are one of the first to do what you do, so you might have a better understanding on what's going to happen in the industry in the future, the next 10, 15 years. Generally, I mean, what kind of business is going to proliferate and, you know, where new fortunes going to be made?
I mean, Lucy and I were discussing this earlier today, and we actually thought that education is going to be like the really big thing that's going to be disrupted. I mean, what other things could be?
I mean, we also feel that crowdfunding is something that is going to change over the next few years, and it's going to become more realised as I don't really know how to phrase it. It's going to become more prevalent globally, for instance. Right. Like, we've even had Kickstarter this year moved out into the UK, and hopefully these kind of platforms will move further into Europe and even then outside into Asia or Africa.
Well, so they opened another building there, or because they used to be based in New York, as far as I know.
Yeah, well, I mean, now you can set up your own sort of Kickstarter programs from the UK. There's Kickstarter.co.uk, I believe. So, you know, people can go ahead there.
Wow, that's awesome. Do you have any favorite book for entrepreneurs?
I'm not a fan of books, to be honest. I tend to do most of my sort of learning, I would say, from podcasts. So I listen to Mixergy a lot, by Andrew Warner.
Yeah,
I listen to Startups all the time. And also say like other other podcasts like Foundation.
Right. And Lucy, maybe you read something as well?
I
I do read blogs.
This is the thing, is I love to read, but not for business really. For tech and business, I tend to do it mostly online. Turn to particularly blogs. I think mostly because they're constantly updated and there's constantly new information. And particularly in this kind of market, I like the most recent things are often most relevant. But I do have to have my books as well.
I see. So, as a kind of practical sort of guidance, speaking about attracting investors, getting money for startups, since you guys did a brilliant job within just, matter of several months, what would you advise for people who want to start up and may have some doubts in a way that, how can I get money, how can I be funded? What would you give as an advice, like to say?
I would say start talking to investors before you actually need the money. It puts you in like a stronger position. So, when you're sort of desperate for money, it's a lot harder to get it. But if you're in a position where you're making progress and you're showing that you're constantly progressing, I mean, often they might just be interested in investing without you even technically asking them. So there's that. And
I mean, one thing I'd also say that we learn on the crowdfunding platform is to not ask for more money than you need. So, for instance, when we first went up, we went up asking for quite a lot of money. And, I mean, particularly on a crowdfunding platform, it's quite hard to get the traction and to get enough people trying to put money in. But also it meant that we were giving away a lot of our equity when we didn't need that much money. So then we sat down, we properly worked out exactly what we would need, and we raised that. And now it means that when we do raise more money, we can get more money for our equity. Our company hasn't been diluted as much. And also, I think that it does show to to investors in particular that you've really thought about it, you've thought where the money would go. You're not just looking for like, oh, I want 100k to throw at this project.
yeah.
But speaking about the startup movements in Europe and maybe everywhere else in the world, some people say that right now there is a bubble of startups in the world. There is more than actually is needed. What do you think about it?
I would argue that there's always the bubble.
Right.
I don't, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many statistics about, only 5% of even funded startups will succeed. And that's, I mean, I read an article, I can't remember where it was, fairly recently, which is awful, about how even VC-backed companies, so many VC-backed startups even fail. And they're the ones which investors have picked out as good, strong companies led by a passionate team.
I mean, but the VC firms, I mean, they spread their bets as well. So they might invest in, say, like 5 companies in the year. So maybe one of them will succeed, and that will kind of get the return on investment for all the ones that failed anyway. So, or maybe didn't do as well as they had intended.
Right, it's like creating a portfolio of companies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but I don't think it's necessarily. I mean, it makes it difficult, obviously, and it's not nice to see people fail. But I don't think it's necessarily a bad idea that there are this amount of people who have a good idea, are passionate about their idea, and really want to try and push it forward.
All right, fair enough. Do you have some examples of great startups that they launched recently, except Swogo, obviously?
Well, at the Dublin Web Summit, we were really impressed at particularly Smart Things, which was amazing, and Code Academy. Both of mean.
No, it was Coder Dojo, wasn't it?
Oh yeah, no, you're right. It was Coder Dojo.
What do they do?
Coder Dojo is kind of like they have really, really young kids, and they pretty much teach them how to code, and there's some like amazing coders that are very, very young. So
Right.
Yeah, we got to see them like speak on stage, and there's just the little kids who, and it's amazing. They're talking about how they can't talk to their friends because their friends use Internet Explorer, and they can't deal with it anymore. It's really funny to hear.
That might be a new sort of education. The future education is here right now.
Exactly.
Great. At the final part, we always have a table tennis set of questions. You probably, seen some other episodes before, and I think this time it's going to be more fun since there are 2 of you. The answer might be different, right?
okay,
Right. So, Steve Jobs or Bill Gates?
Steve Jobs.
Yeah, I'll go Steve Jobs as well.
So you have the same here, right? iPhone, BlackBerry, or HTC?
HTC.
Well, I'd go Android.
All right.
Because
Those are 3 choices. You have to pick one of the 3.
You can take Samsung, for instance. It operates Android, I think.
yeah, I mean, yeah, but HTC is the manufacturer,
All right.
and the other ones are like the operating systems.
All right.
well-
So no iPhones here.
Well, so it would be like iOS, BlackBerry OS, and then
Android.
Yeah, Android.
All right. So you'll go for Android.
In that case, I'd go for Android. Yeah.
I
Sorry.
might change the question then.
At least.
Tea or coffee?
T.
All right. You guys both English, right? I mean British.
Yeah.
All right. That explains the choice. Going to a party or staying home?
mixture.
Stay at home, I'll go with.
Can I have a mixture as an answer?
All right.
That's the question.
I like bending rules. I'd say party.
Okay. Which car, BMW or Mercedes?
BMW.
I'll go with BMW as well.
Just copying my answers.
No.
Fruits and vegetables or fast food?
I'm actually go fruit and vegetables. I don't actually like fast food that much.
And
I would go with the fruits and vegetables as well. I had to pick just one.
Really?
Well, yeah, I tend to do 2 extremes.
egg or chicken? What came first?
Oh no.
The egg.
Anthony?
I'd go with the egg as well.
Being married or not being married?
Not being married.
Being married.
God believer or atheist?
Atheist.
Atheist.
All right. So for those people who watching us right now, want to start up and are afraid of something, what would you advise?
Don't be afraid and just get on with it. I would say maybe as well, you start it off as a side project. If you start seeing some traction, you really believe in it, then make the jump.
Yeah, and I'd say in terms of the side project as well, I know it's sort of bandied around a lot, but fail fast. If things aren't working, it's not working, change it.
So from Anthony,
And from Lucy,
and from the rest of Swogo,
hi, in2up.